Hello everyone, May the 14th. Tomorrow in Greenwich, Mercury turns direct, and just one day after, Jupiter enters Taurus. Wow, this is an interesting mix. Let's look a bit deeper. So Mercury changing to forward motion, which just happens around the time I'm recording this. So Mercury is standing still right now, which is always a really good moment to gain perspective. But it's like if you are standing on being an unmoving object, then you can totally see the details of everything. That's the special thing about this particular Mercury. So this is the frequency we are receiving right now. The Moon conjunct Neptune. This tells me that Mercury is primed in this moment for a 4-month period till it reaches back to exact that same position, which is the end of the retrogression. It's like waves. There's a big wave forward, and then there's a small wave back, and then there's a big wave forward, a small wave back. So it is at that moment when the small wave is at its end in the new forward big motion starts, which makes sense, would be the kind of the most important spot in the cycle, just as we get into the 3.5 or whatever months, and then the 2-3 weeks of the retrograde cycle are then the little wave on the other end. Anyway, that's exactly where we're at. And Mercury in itself is in a very powerful spot here, ahead of the node and Jupiter and the ascendant. So this is a power couple, just even Mercury and Jupiter together. And Jupiter still in the last degree of Aries, which is the most richest experience of Aries you can have is in the very last moments. That's before you're closing the door and shutting off and going into a new land again. That's how it feels for a planet moving through the sense. There's always, you're totally open to whatever comes, and then as you're going along, you're gathering these series of experiences which all kind of fit into one coloration, one theme. Taurus, it will be about growth and making roots, making things real. Taurus is the most material sign of the zodiac, at least the most fertile too. It's really that spring soil, and Jupiter entering this sign where not just Uranus is, Mercury, the North Node, but also the Sun and Uranus. So Jupiter just at the doorstep entering Taurus. This is an extremely versatile experience, pioneering force. Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system. So bringing that qualifications into entering Taurus tomorrow is really the story here. And then look at this Pluto here at the 11th house cusp. I mean, can't get more beautiful with the Aries rising. And we looked at that 28th degree already. Those of you who have been following my videos, or whatever you call that, podcasts. The 28th degree of Taurus, that is the Sabian symbol, is, I'm paraphrasing it, a performer is confronted with his bad performance. I guess that's exactly what's happening on this planet right now. People have to, lots and numbers are starting to ask big questions, and there's too many people asking questions. It gets really a chorus, and there comes a point when all of a sudden the sun is rising and everybody sees it. That's kind of where we're going, and this chart is the setup for it. So the next 4 months really is the time of revolution. This is the big breakthrough, particularly with Jupiter and Taurus, who is feeding all these Earth planets, Earth energies back to nature, reconnecting with nature. And that's what Jacqueline Hobbs says. Yes, it's all about our realization we are part of nature, period. Like a tree, like a flower. Anything additional is artificial. Let's leave it at that. Anyway, the beautiful dichotomy paradox is that the interface between two polarities, nature and whatever the other force, is really where evolution happens. It is where the surfaces meet, where friction is, where the changes literally are formed, the new planets born, so to say, in that seventh house of fission, of coming together and sparking something new. Anyway, this is really a beautiful and powerful energy this Mercury station shows, not even speaking of Venus in Cancer, and that is really the energy we are building on. We already have that deep humane quality of loving our family, our kids, our pets, our trees in our yard, our neighbors. It's you see it ripples out, and there's really, where is the line to be drawn? We're all in that together, and we're mirrors of each other anyway. So Venus here in this power position, and yes, you have to go back to that recording. It really shows literally with all these blueprints how Venus is the most powerful grounding force right now in these 5-6 weeks into early June. This is really the coming together on a very deep root level. Humanity is together with Mars here in Taurus and in Cancer too. Venus and Mars both in Cancer. Very, very powerful root energy, bringing us back to respect our bloodlines, our ancestors, and in that sense, as the natural consequence of that, projecting into the future, the coming 7 generations, or however many. I mean, 7 is just a number. It's a beautiful number. So, but you get the idea. And then Mars in pole position here with Pluto. Yes, this is explosive, to say the least. This is explosive in a really good way. A love explosion, I almost would like to call it, particularly with that Moon Neptune conjunction. Very intuitive thinking there is going on, and it is, the Moon is ahead of Neptune. This is good, this is great. The Moon representing our psyche, or whatever, our emotional response to what is. It is the water in our bodies which goes through these tides, and that translates into the emotional tides and waves, and it's all waves in the end anyway. So it's just, some are more refined, others are more gross. But what I'm saying is that the Moon is ahead of Neptune, has gone through the thickest, densest fog, and is in the process of breaking away and free and seeing through it all, because it has the direct, intimate experience. That's what this is. And in that degree, that is in hexagram 36. That's the last hexagram if you overlay the 64, really, and then the first one starts, which is 25. So 36 is darkening of the light. Yes, naturally we're at the end of a cycle. We're going underground and building roots and building the seeds. That's kind of this last full segment of Pisces energy with darkening of the light naturally is a difficult time. The truth has been buried. The light has been put under a cup. Everybody is in darkness. It's a valuable experience, let's put it that way at least. And this is on a much bigger scale. I just want to do a little bit of an ad here in between, because this is one of my projects, one of the upcoming videos. I want to talk about Neptune entering hexagram 25 Innocence, which will happen the first time in 2024 April, and then the second time forever. Or however many years, 6-7 years, whatever, in hexagram 25, which is Innocence, new beginnings. So it's really, we have to wait out Neptune, which takes about a year per degree. So next year it will first cut that 2815 into hexagram 25. Really big shift in energy, that is, from that deep and profound last Pisces segment, which is full of darkness and difficulties and loss and having to say goodbye on all levels, literally, even to what is dearest, and then the rebirth in these last degrees of Pisces still. How much more beautiful can it be? Neptune being the one experiencing this. So this is really the spark of a whole new imagination. Our dream world will change, if you want, from very, very dark as it was in the last few years, 5-6 years or so, where it was in 36. So anyway, this is kind of, we're at the tail end of this, yes, and it is a time of realization, of integration, and of understanding, because this is really necessary. We have to first fully digest and understand. Integrate is probably the best word, and then once everything is integrated, yes, then we can go forward and full on into the new. Then we have a solid foundation to build on, and that will be true history, true records of what happened. This is the shadow we want to carry with us into the future. We want to know what the past trial and errors have learned us, in a simple way said. So this will be the base for whatever thousands or 1,000 years of freedom, of the golden age which is proposed. However, the 1,000 again is just a number. That's the problem with numbers. Yes, you can say to the infinite, but again, this is no more a number. So I could keep raving about this chart. It is most beautiful. A particular detail here is also that 11th degree of Cancer, that is in hexagram 39, which is obstruction, which is one of these really interesting energies in the I Ching. Obstruction is intentional, directing the energies in a different way, which is definitely not what was expected. It's kind of, that is the scenario here. So there's a can I say it, a provocation in it, a provocative energy which triggers to look closer, to have a second opinion. And it is interesting that the US chart, which I like actually really to call the New World's Birth chart, that's how big I think that moment July 4th, 1776 really is that Independence Day. It is the first public implementation of new rules, because these are the foundations for that nation. Yes, it's in its youthful ignorance state, still only 250 years or so old, which is nothing if you compare it to even the Egyptian or the Chinese dynasties, or you name it, India, which has tens of thousands of years of history. It's nothing. So it's really, we're just outgrowing childhood, and in that sense the new world, that's what me growing up in Europe and Switzerland, the new world, that was everything which was bigger than us, naturally oriented towards America, but it's more than the US. It's much more. It's really, I guess it's a Dvorak's symphony, The New World. It's kind of that feeling. Jumping on a steam engine boat and crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and you don't know even if you make it to the other side. It's a dangerous journey. It's an opening to something bigger, something greater, something of our imagination. That's basically what it is. That's where we're going. It's the age of imagination we're getting into, where everything is possible, literally, no limitations, because all limitations which have been put in and experienced were artificial in a way. This is another expression of that hexagram obstruction 38 here between 9:30 and 15:07:30 in Cancer, one of the central energies of Cancer. Yes, it is kind of an interesting thing to challenge someone on an emotional level, to throw something between his legs and see what comes out of it. That's kind of to just give one example. Anyway, it is interesting that the new world's sun sign, yes, July 4th, is in that hexagram 39, difficulty, obstruction. An interesting choice of interaction with the world around you, to say the least. Interesting, as we are speaking of this hexagram, we should look at the one at the other end, which is not less interesting, which is 38, which is oppression. Sorry, not oppression. It's okay, this is obstruction, and 38 is opposition. That's the word, opposition. Yeah, opposition. Interesting again, polarization in the United States, particularly through the last whatever, probably pretty much since the beginning. I mean, we had the internal war in 1861. I guess it was really from early on. There was the seed of opposition planted, of polarization, white and black, and good and bad, and rich and poor, and naturally in the land of the big and of the great and of the ever bigger, satirizing in my opinion. Well, I mean, it's definitely a very interactive, and not particularly in a nice way as we have experienced, but I mean, these energies can also be expressed in a very constructive way. Opposition is necessary sometimes, because you have to really pull the whole scene apart and see it from a distance, kind of open that whatever chocolate box and spread it out and see it in all its details, which then creates that polarization effect of one versus the other. A very Capricornian energy, yes, and this will be the ruling energy for the next 4 months. Again, keep that in mind. So there is that clash we will definitely see coming real, and it is in the Taurus dwad, which is 10 degrees to 12 and a half Capricorn, which is a Taurian energy with all these planets in Taurus. Oh, there's big backing here from the first house. Yes, nevertheless, the first house says, this is me. Take it or leave it. And that's Aries. Very bold. And with the Sun and Uranus, I mean, yes, it's. I could go on and on. I have been kind of repeating myself over the last many videos anyway, because I can clearly see where this show is all going. It's so obvious at this point. It's so right in my face, and I try to share it. Hopefully I'm succeeding, at least to some degree. So the North Node is the evolutionary direction we're moving into. Has been in the sign Taurus already since more than a year. So we have been learning to ground, to trust nature, to reconnect with our natural world, and realize how infinitely powerful nature is. That's where we truly are feeding on. It's the sun's rays, it's the wind, the rain, the storm, the hail, the thunder, it's all together. All these natural forces, they are extremely more powerful than anything artificial we can create on this planet. Let's just leave it at that, not even thinking of earthquakes and volcanoes and things like that. Earth changes, which might be possible, as I showed you in what I see. You can go back to that recording too. Anyway, it's extraordinary times. I mean, Taurus is, particularly with Jupiter in there, that's success, that's prosperity, that's expansion, that's physical money, you could call it, gold, silver. So I'm expecting everything natural will go up in value. That also can mean your food is going up in value, which it does, I guess. So, but it's getting away from the ideas, the great thoughts. We are getting into the manifestation period. I like Dane Rudyard. I said that many times. I like him. He's definitely one of my great heroes. Speaking of astrology. I think he was just unique. He brought in a voice nobody had seen yet. Anyway, we all do, but he definitely is a great idol of mine. He divides the zodiac in 24 15-degree segments. The first 15 degrees of Aries is potency. No, it's desire. The first 15 degrees desire. It's when the imagination is blooming, when the new ideas become real, then they have that quality of desire. It's something we do not have yet, but which is to come naturally. And then comes potency. Then we are feeding these dreams, desires. That's the second half of Aries. And then we have substantiation. It becomes substance. And then confirmation. And why I'm saying that is because when, let's just see, that's where we're going. That's let me see, I have a whole lineup of charts here. Anyway, maybe I should just keep going where I am, not getting sidetracked too much. Let's just keep where we are at. Let's leave that for another day. Well, so this is the real enactment. Mercury is the trickster, as many know, the messenger of the gods. It's the planet which is connected to humanness, I would even say. It is that thinking animal thing. Mercury is an addition up on the base level of manifest nature. Plants, animals, they live in the moment. There's not the comparison of what has been, what will be, of trying to figure things out and using patterns, which is really the ability to capture, take recordings of real situations and store them, have a storage facility. That's Mercury 2, a storage facility, and then later replay them and then put them in contrast to what is now, and then project into the future what could become, and then you create time. So time is really just a concept. It's always now. Period. The now doesn't go nowhere and doesn't come from anywhere. It's just here. It's too big of a thought for our minds. Anyway, the other chart I really want to focus on today, I mean, I could speak of many. I really thought I should kind of bring out the most important ones, and naturally this is its brother. When then Jupiter enters Taurus on the 16th, Tuesday, 5:20 p.m. in Universal Time, Greenwich Time. Interesting that Taurus, I love this chart. Again, it's just it's not less intense and powerful than the other one I showed you, Mercury changing station, changing direction to forward. So Jupiter here at the 7th house cusp in its own ingress chart into Taurus, activating itself here into this new experience for the next full year. That's what it is. Will be great, will be difficult. Yes, it was kind of what I thought of naming that change, that ingress chart. Let me see, where is my note here, what I wrote here. The Jupiter in Taurus, great and demanding, or great and difficult. And we're in the final stretch of the most spectacular victory. Yes, it's happening. It is happening. By spring 2024, when we are in the final stage of Jupiter in Taurus, it will be obvious, to say the least. Up to there, it's a journey. Enjoy it while it lasts. We will tell these stories to our kids and grandkids, and it will be carried on for many generations. This is the story of our times. This is where the real birth of something new is happening, and this is what this chart shows. That you see Haumea, Elatus, the south node, Radamanthus. So let's focus on Haumea. Just Haumea being that American football spinning on its far ends every 4 hours, incredibly dynamic. It's the fire dragon, I like to call it. It's the energy which gave birth to Hawaii, the archipelago of Hawaii, but naturally this is again just the archetype of any island, built from a deep level of profound reality and builds layers and layers and layers, and there comes the moment when all of a sudden it reaches the surface of the ocean and becomes an island. Something new is born. That is the energy. Childbirth, meaning the whole process with the preparation, then naturally the labor, all the pain which goes with it, which is the natural balancing point to pleasure. So if we are not able to take pain, we will also not be able to take pleasure. I mean, agony and ecstasy, again, it's just the world of duality we're in. But it is exactly these words in Scorpio and Taurus which are the two, I would say, probably, yeah, I mean, aside from Leo and Aquarius, it's the four stubborn signs. They have their opinion, they have their character, and they are extremely intense. Naturally, it's also where you could say where the big spokes are the suspension points, the big suspension points to the archetypes of this world. It's like the four apostles, it's the four the lion, the eagle, the bull, and I forget what the Aquarius is name that, but that's, you get the picture. Anyway, okay, so first of all, this powerful Scorpio energy and Haumea entering Scorpio again, just a few months down the road, I guess, in October or so. Anyway, I could keep rolling here for a long time longer. I keep it at that, keep it not too long, so you guys are watching it to the end, hopefully. Anyway, thanks for joining and listening. If you would like to support me, there is links under the site, and I'm very much appreciating that. Gives me more motivation and energy to do these videos. And see you again.